Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, out of Voice for Radio. So today, we're going to be taking a look at a new Jynx card. And this one, ladies and gentlemen, well, this one could be fun. Now, the translation here is a mixture of myself on Google Translate and the lovely Joe from Cerebi.net. And if we have a little bit of a look at the basics, it's got 80 HP, which is that weird middle ground. It's very low, but we don't get Professor Elm's lecture. But if we ever get a return of Level Ball, it will be lovely. And then as much as we want 60, there's always Pokemon that hit 30. Espeon GX comes to mind, that will be rotating as this comes out. And then they don't KO you anymore. So I don't know, maybe it's good. Maybe it's alright. Retreat cost of 1 we quite like, because stuff like U-turn board will give you free retreat, so that's good. Weakness to Psychic, I mean look, you've got 80 HP. It's not the best weakness to have, because Mew and Mew, well, Mewtwo and Mew if I'm being honest. GX is going to be amazing, which means people are going to be playing Psychic stuff to take it down. And, you know, pre-evolutions are going to be able to hit 40 and KO you. But it's not the worst weakness ever. And it's a Psychic type, so you can use Malamar to accelerate energy if you're into all of that. You can use Spell Tag to do a bit of extra damage when you're KO'd. We've got some tricks. But really, ladies and gentlemen, it is the ability with which we are primarily concerned. And apparently, what it allows you to do is manipulate damage counters. It says that once during your turn, you may move one damage counter from one of your Pokemon to another one of your Pokemon. And although initially, we might have that reaction of, why do we want to move damage around our own Pokemon? But then we realised that Reuniclus got second place at the World Championships, and honestly, it's because the game was timed. If it had been an untimed game, I'm not saying it would have won the World Championships, but I am saying it would have made a pretty gosh darn good go. I personally think it would, but I can't say for certain. And that was used with stuff like Donphan, so Reuniclus would move energy from your Donphan to your big bad Pokemon, maybe something like Reshiram, and then use Blissey Prime to heal all the damage off. The thing is, Reuniclus was a very all-in kind of deck. It was a kind of deck where this was your strategy. You need to pile damage counters and heal. That's what you do. Jynx doesn't do that. Jynx moves one damage counter once per turn. Now, to be fair, you can play 4 Jynx and then move 4 damage counters, but really, I don't think I'm buying it, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think it's going to work. But here's the thing. There's a million different uses for Jynx. I don't think you're going to be able to sit there and move all the damage onto one Pokemon and heal. But I absolutely do think that there are going to be plenty of things you can do. And there are 2 Pokemon that spring to mind initially, which I think demonstrate quite nicely the kind of combos you can be playing around with if you're playing with Jynx. And they are the Stunfisk and the Spiritomb that just came out in Unbroken Bonds. So the Stunfisk does 30 damage for each of your Pokemon that has any damage counters on. So what you really want to do here is try and make sure that you've got damage on all of your Pokemon. But generally speaking, your opponent's going to be attacking one of your Pokemon at a time. So if you have Jynx here, you can move a damage counter off of your damaged Pokemon onto an undamaged Pokemon. That's an extra 30 damage. Now, to be fair, if your opponent's one-hit KOing, nothing you can do about it. And maybe moving 1 damage from one Pokemon to another isn't going to be enough. But on the other hand, maybe it's going to mean you do that extra 30 damage you need to take yourself from not getting a KO to getting a KO. And then, of course, we got Spiritomb. I love Spiritomb. And these make a really nice pair. Spiritomb's got a lovely ability whereby once during your turn, you may put a damage counter on it. But then Anguish Cry, the attack for 1 Darkness Energy, does 10 damage, plus 30 more for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So you hit 10, but then you use the ability and you hit 40. And then the next turn you use the ability and hit 70. And then the next turn you use the ability and hit 100 until you're up to 5 damage counters and you're hitting 160. Well, this essentially lets you do it as long as your opponent isn't getting a one-hit KO every turn. It lets you do it twice as fast. 1 damage counter from Spiritomb, 1 from Jynx. So first turn you're doing 70, second turn you're doing 130, and then you're up to 160. Or what you could do here is have, and again this is slightly awkward, but you could have 2 Spiritomb and a Jynx, and then 1 Spiritomb puts a damage on it, and then the other Spiritomb puts a damage on it, which you immediately move over to the first Spiritomb. So you're putting essentially 2 on the same Spiritomb, rather than 1 on each of 2, and that makes a difference. That's the difference between being 10, 20, 30 damage short of a KO, and getting a KO. Now, there are a whole bunch of niche uses for this. Any Pokemon with an outrage style attack. Like Reshiram and Charizard, for instance. Now, they did get reprinted in Shining Legends, though unfortunately that print has actually rotated out as well now. But we've always got Pokemon with an outrage attack. I mean, Reshiram and Charizard has an outrage attack. And any Pokemon with an outrage attack is going to love this. Any Pokemon like Stunfisk that does damage, depending on how many of your Pokemon have damage, are going to love this. But sometimes you're going to be staring down a Zapdos. And you're going to know that your opponent has played all of their Electro Power. And you're going to know that your opponent does not play Electro Charger. So you know that your opponent is capped at doing 80 damage. But unfortunately, you've got 80 HP remaining, they're going to get a KO. In comes Jynx. You move 10 damage off, and it's not healing, but it's moving 10 damage off. And that does just enough to mean that Zapdos is not getting a KO, and you are going to survive next turn, and that might give you that one turn that you need in order to survive. And maybe that's the thing that wins the game. Or maybe we're playing with stuff like Champions Festival, for instance. Champions Festival, it's been printed many years in a row now as the World's promo. And that lets you heal 1 damage from each of your bench Pokemon, or 10 damage, 1 damage counter, as long as you've got 6 Pokemon in play. I know, right? So here, instead of healing 1 damage from 1 of your Pokemon, you're healing 1 damage from 2 of your Pokemon, because you've used Jynx to move a damage off. So now instead of just healing 1 damage off your only damaged Pokemon, you've now got 2 damaged Pokemon, so you're healing 20. My point is that these are the kind of things you can do with Jynx, and there are probably going to be others. But Jynx gives you weird little plays like this, which can absolutely make the difference in a win and a loss. Now there is an attack here, but we're not getting terribly excited. Psychic, colourless, 30 damage, flip a coin, if heads paralysis. It's fine. I mean, look, there's a whole bunch of Pokemon out there like Pachirisu that have Nuzzle, and Pachirisu would love to do 30 damage while paralysing on a coin flip, rather than no damage. We are losing Victini to the rotation, so you're not going to be able to flip again for the paralysis. It's going to remain a 50% chance, rather than jumping to a 75% chance. But you know what? It's fine. You might hit the paralysis. You might not, but you might. 2 energy I don't like, so you're probably going to have to play it in something like a Malamar deck because we're losing counter energy, and I don't think anyone's going to actually put 2 energy on this just to try and get the paralysis. It's fine. It's that classic attack of, look, I'm playing it for the ability, but I know what the attack does, and you never know. Maybe one day I'll need to use it. Maybe it will come out big. It needs Psychic Energy, it needs 2 energy. It's really unlikely that it's ever going to get too good, but there's going to be the odd game where it comes up handy. Just make sure you flip heads. Really here for Jynx, it's the ability. That's what we're worried about, that's what we're concerned about, that's what we're focused on. Jynx is a Pokemon we're playing unashamedly for the ability, and it's not for every deck. It is for the odd deck here or there that's got a weird kind of strategy where you want to move your damage counters around. I've given you a bunch of examples in this video, but rest assured, ladies and gentlemen, there's plenty more. So let's give Jynx free Wassies. It's not a phenomenal card. It's a very niche card, but you need a couple copies in your binder because you never know when you're going to want to play this in a deck. And that is the very definition of a free Wassie card. But I would very much like to know what you think about this, so please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/TheWassie. patreon.com/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays, where we talk about games that don't even have any Pokemon on. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.